Welcome back to Authentically Peculiar with Marcia, the holiday version. I was thinking that as we are entering into the holiday season with various celebrations throughout different belief systems, how to help others navigate emotional safety during the holiday season. I know that we're often pressed to be together with family. We're pressed to put on a face like we want to be there. We're pressed to even attend things because we don't want others to feel like we think we're better than them, or that we're standoffish or isolating or anything of that nature. The best way to navigate the holiday season is attaching yourself to your own emotional safety. What is emotional safety? Emotional safety is the ability to identify what your physical, mental, and cognitive needs are to feel safe in any environment. Oftentimes, there are disruptive situations such as family relationships, friendship relationships, sibling rivalry, parent child rivalry. All of those different things can impact the truth in a relationship. And it really, really impacts how you decide what you're going to do during the holiday season. Honor yourself first. So let's talk about the level of emotional safety first, dealing with your own emotions. When you think about your emotional space, where exactly are you? Are you only going to, engage in these different emotional spaces, these different celebratory spaces because you feel like you're obligated? If you're only going out of obligation and your heart isn't in it, you might want to skip out. You might want to say, no, I'm not going to make it this year, and be okay with whatever that decision is. Be okay with you saying to yourself, it doesn't matter what they think. I know how I feel about a situation. You have to be willing to ignore the voices in your head that's trying to bring about a negative narrative to make you feel a different kind of way from going. Your emotional safety should be first as you're going through the holiday season. Let's talk about that mental message that you can often throw into yourself. You know what that mental message is. You know the message that you've had to hear. Oh, you think you're better than us. Oh, you don't have time. Oh, you're rude. You're this and that. You don't have to accept or own those messages. That's their perspective. People have a right to their perspective. You have a right to honor you. If someone has a perspective that you're being rude or standoffish and things of that nature, that's really on them. That's how they feel about a certain thing. Oftentimes, people fail to ask, why don't you feel safe coming and being a part of the family? That's the big question. So I'm asking that of you. Why don't you feel safe going to family gatherings? Why don't you feel safe saying no? When you can really look at those questions and ask and answer those questions for yourself, you may find out that there are some unresolved issues that you are avoiding by not going. It could be issues of feeling like I just never have a voice. It could be feelings like there's a comparison happening between siblings and cousins and all of those different situations. There's those God forbidden questions. Why aren't you married? Why aren't you with someone? Why don't you have children? All of that kind of foolishness can make it uncomfortable going into family situations, right? It also could be uncomfortable going into those situations when people are always trying to remind you of your past. Your past was, it's not is. Your past was, it's not is. It's not right here unless you choose to bring it with you into the present. It was what you went through at the time that you were going through it. It was what you experienced. It may not have been a choice. It could have been a force, or it could have been your choice on the activities at that time. But that's not for them to keep trying to hold you hostage to the past. Well, they can't hold you hostage if you aren't holding yourself hostage. If you freed yourself from those things of the past, then you're free. I remember for years, it was always a running joke that Marcia would get rid of a guy as fast, and she didn't mind how they get rid of looked like. They talked about a very serious situation that happened when I was married the first time that literally could have ended two lives. And I finally said, so why is this a joke? Why does this need to come up at every family get together? Because if I start airing your dirty laundry, how would that feel for you? Most people don't want their laundry aired out. You have to be able to give yourself permission in your emotional safety to have a voice. If you don't like those running jokes, you don't have to accept them. You can share with people, that's not cool. We're not doing that, right? Don't hide from it. Now, the other word of caution is if you're going into a situation where you know that the environment is mentally abusive and you know that whatever you say is going to be turned around against you, you may have to identify a better way to speak to one or two people that you believe can receive your message. And there are some people who are prone to say some really negative things to try to bring up your past in a way of judgment. One, because they don't want that light shining on them. You get to identify for yourself what's good for you. Your voice is the empowerment that you give it, not the empowerment that they try to take away from you. So when you're discussing emotional safety during the holidays, ask those why questions. Why is it impacting? And why am I not standing up and honoring my voice? When you start thinking about the cognitive side of things, that mental side of things, where you get those little messages and reminders of why you feel like you may be the black sheep. I don't even know what that means. I do know what it means. I'm kind of being facetious because you can't be really a black sheep unless you allow that, right? Yes. Do people treat you differently than others? Absolutely. Your choice in how you perceive that and stay away from it is that. Try not to get into those labels. When people want to label you, I remember as a kid being labeled a bad kid. Was never a bad kid. I remember being labeled a fast kid. I was never a fast kid. Um, in fact, out of the crew of people that I was around, I was the last person to lose my virginity. Wasn't a fast kid. I was literally fighting, trying to survive molestation. But if my family, they didn't know, but they made a lot of assumptions about my decisions on later on in life because they didn't know all of my past and they didn't know my truth. At that time, I didn't have a voice. At that time, I didn't feel supported in my voice. I literally had to grow into owning my own voice, speaking up for myself, and being able to say, that's not cool. That's not who I was, nor who I am. This is who I am, whether you like it or not, right? You have to then disrobe all of those negative stories you've been telling yourself that aren't true. When you know what your truth is, you don't need external validation to prove that for you. Validate the story for yourself. If you're waiting on people to come in and apologize for their actions or the way they made you feel, if they never owned that that's how they made you feel, then they're not going to apologize for it. Or they'll give a half-hearted apology that goes something like this. Well, I apologize if that's how you perceived it. Well, that's not really an apology if you're saying to you what your actions did hurt me, right? You have to recognize that whether they apologize or even take accountability, which is oftentimes the reason why people won't apologize, because then they have to be accountable for their action. You have to come to a place where you can survive. You choose to survive without that accountability. Don't give anyone your space of peace. Don't give anyone your space of your own internal joy, waiting on their external validation or their apology. Cut down. And before the holidays, I really encourage you to go back through all of those negative stories you've been telling yourself and reverse them with your positive stories, your actual truth about the stories. Because if you don't, those things are going to continue to guide your movement. If you don't like something that someone is doing to you or it makes you feel uncomfortable, first assess within yourself. Give yourself permission to be emotionally safe. Honor your words, honor your truth in the process of being you. Now, if you're going into an environment where you feel like there is potential for abuse, um, you may want to opt out. You may want to, you know, give yourself that permission. If you're going into an environment where you've been invited by family to come and celebrate, but you know that it's always made you feel uncomfortable, find out your why. Why is that situation, that person, or those people uncomfortable for you? When you address what that discomfort is, it gives you permission to go ahead and be released from that situation. Giving yourself that permission, honoring yourself to be released is the biggest boss move that you can make in your life. You want to make sure that as you're going through the holidays that you create the beautiful memories that you decide for your life. That means if you now start taking trips so that your holiday memories are better, you create situations like Friendsgiving versus Thanksgiving. That's a creative situation. Identifying other ways to celebrate that actually represent who you are, your free self, right? Because when you are in bondage to others, you're haphazardly spending excess amounts of money for presents just so that you can say, I did. You're showing up in situations where you don't always feel loved or welcome, but you're going because there's some obligation. Give yourself that sense of freedom to move past that space. You don't have to be in a space where your soul isn't happy. And I know that there's the thing, well, that's my brother, my sister, my mom, my dad. But if there's no respect or honor in that space, or if respect and honor is lopsided, you want to come away from those unbalanced relationships. Now, by no means am I saying to you, stop talking to your mother, your father, your sisters, brothers, or whomever, but you have to choose where your peace place is. I have a running theory in my life. I will self assess when I'm invited to different things to find out where I am to see if it's going to be a good fit. The second thing is if I don't get invited and I hear about it, which that occurs frequently, I have to ask myself, is that bothersome for me? 9 times out of 10, it really isn't, because I'm a true introvert. So I'm so cool with hanging out with me. But if it's a situation where a lot of people have gotten together and I kind of heard about it afterwards, especially family, I self-assess, where did I feel that pain? Where did that hurt me? And then I address it for me. 9 times out of 10, I probably won't address it with those individuals because I can't expect them to honor my truth in it. There was their own reasoning for the non-invite, and I'm so okay with that. When you become okay with not being included and you love yourself beyond that space, right? You can move in your peace process. My running theory in life is, if I know that I have not wronged you and you pretty much give me your butt to kiss, I'm real cool, right? When you can live in that space, because one thing about me, I can only speak for me, if someone approaches me and tell me that I've said and or did something to wrong them, I can then address it. If I know that I wronged them based on what they're sharing with me, I'm gonna apologize, because even if that was their perception on it, you had the courage to come to me and say, I felt this way when you did and or said this. In me, I am going to extend that apology with the understanding that there was no malicious intent to harm anyone. But when I know that I've not done anything to harm anyone, I'm so cool with wherever we're going. I remember having these massive holiday parties and get togethers and all that kind of stuff at my home. And then when I opted to no longer host those things, the phone calls, the ask dried up. And I had to go back and assess, what was your intent in hosting these parties? And then when I realized that my intent was so that I could be involved, even though I knew I wasn't getting those invitations, I was kind of mad at me, because I devalued my space. Now, don't get me wrong, every year, Christmas Eve, me and the kids and grandkids, we're going to have a Christmas Eve celebration, because that's just my thing. But as far as things going on throughout the year with family and stuff, I don't miss out when I don't get invited. You have to create that level of emotional security and safety for yourself. Now, if you're going in situations because, this is my mom, I want to be around, go ahead and be mindful of not allowing negative words to penetrate. You know, there are some moms, unfortunately, that say things, whether there's an intent of maliciousness or an intent to do no harm. Go ahead and give yourself permission to not grab hold to those things and take it personal. Because if that's how they feel, that's how they feel. You don't have to own it. You can change how you want to operate in it. Getting angry and mad, yeah, don't give them that energy. Learn how to be okay with you. The best holiday tips that I have for you: be cool with you. Honor yourself in everything that you do. Respect who you are, where you are, when you are, and how you are. Hear your internal voice. If your gut says don't go, don't go. If you are in a situation where things are being said that are hurtful for you, either pull the person aside, address it, or dismiss yourself from the situation and address it later. You have to honor yourself through these holiday seasons. Holidays can be tough. Holidays can make you feel like you're lonely and unwelcome. Holidays can make you feel joyous. You get to choose. Don't put yourself in a situation where you won't honor yourself, but honor yourself in all that you do as you live authentically for you. Happy holidays. I hope this helps for you to move into a place of emotional safety for you, and then celebrate. As we're going into a new year, begin to celebrate your achievements of this year. Begin to prepare for what it is that you want to establish as goals for next year. You are your greatest asset. Happy holidays to you. From Marcia Blaine Brands, Authentically Peculiar with Marcia, and Peculiar One Counseling. We'll see you soon. Happy holidays.